You ever wonder why the cycle of corruption just continues to repeat itself in Congress? Well, if you think about it, it's not that difficult to understand. What you have is you have new representatives, some remaining, but quite often new representatives joining Congress. As far as congressmen are concerned, it's every 2 years. Senators, it's every 6 years. So the senators have 6 years to establish themselves, and the congressmen, well, they only have 2, so they have to try harder because they want to stay there, you know what I mean? And what happens is, if you take a look at it, the majority of members of Congress that are established, you know, the old-timers, they're all very wealthy individuals. They're all multimillionaires. And there's very few that have gone into it with a whole lot of money, other than a guy like, you know, well, Kennedy's did, because the family were in the booze industry. And you got John Kerry, you know, his wife, you know, Heinz Ketchup. And then you've got Darrell Issa. Darrell made it himself. He's probably the only one that made it himself. And then you got a whole bunch of them, like Pelosi, that made it through scams, you know, insider trading, getting on appropriation committees where they run rail lines past their apartment buildings, getting on committees where they run a highway through their property that's in the middle of the desert, you know what I mean? That's how they do it. So what happens is, you know, these new-timers, they get into Congress and they want to be one of the boys. They want to join that elitist club, you know? The Millionaires Club. And the majority of senior members of Congress, unless they're really idiots, come to think of it, I don't think Biden's in that club. It isn't because he's honest. It's because he's stupid. But anyway, and he's been around for like 40 years. So what really happens is those that get into Congress, they want to get what they can out of it, you know? So they all try to get along. And if they get along, they come along. You know what I mean? They're pulled into the inner circle. Yeah, they become one of the boys or girls. And what's really fascinating, and I've done this, if you go look up a lot of these folks, you know, these congressional representatives, well, most of them were attorneys. I know it doesn't speak well for attorneys, but anyway, most of them were attorneys. Some of them were even disbarred, like, you know, both of those bozos in the White House. What are the chances that a husband and wife team become attorneys and they both get whacked for being attorneys? Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, so what happens is that most of them have never had a real job. No. And I've done videos on, I think, 12 of these folks. Only one had a real job, and he's such a dumbo, he thought that Guam was going to tip over with the influx of military personnel. You know what I mean? He's the only one that had a job of, I think, 12 that I did. The rest of them went right into the public trough. So how can anyone expect them to understand what you go through or what I went through to make a living? They can't. They've always had it given to them. Obama's no different. Obama never, well, the only real job that he had, he shouldn't have had because he didn't have a real Social Security card, is when he was squashing ice cream cones over Baskin-Robbins in Hawaii. That's the only real job he ever had. The rest was silver spoon. Yeah. Even when he went to, where'd he go? He went in 1980. He went to places you can't go, Indonesia. You couldn't go to Indonesia in 1980, but he went there. You ever wonder how he could afford to do that? He did have a rich roommate boyfriend. I guess that's when he started going on that path, you know what I mean? Anyway, I don't want to go there. The reality is that unless we have term limits, this cycle will never end. Because they all get in there to get along so they can all join the Millionaires Club. So what we have to have is term limits. You can't have a guy like Jeff Flake who spends 10 years in Congress and then he runs for the Senate. I mean, that doesn't work. They need to do their term, 2 terms, whatever you want to do. You want to be a senator, great. You want to be a congressman, great. 2 terms, find something else to do. Get out of the public trough, you know? That's the only way that this country has a chance. That's if it had a chance. And I don't think it still has a chance. I think we're done. What do you think?